Hey everybody, ronarray here, and in 0.3.1, as you already know, juicing and farm in general been significantly changed. Mostly because GG removed towers and now we can use only 3 tablets. They also decided not to raise amount of quantity that you can run on the tablets, which definitely affected farm. So in this video I wanted to share my experience with a new type of farming, talking about 3 possible strategies that you can currently utilize just to drop more raw currency in general and raw divines in particular. I'm going to talk about how you can prepare your maps and what you can expect. Please keep in mind that in this video I'm going to talk about strategy for the unprepared maps. The maps that you never buffed with the towers before, so the maps that we are running only with 3 tablets. Let's go! And first, let's start with the Atlas. So, for the farming right now, not a lot of things changed in the Atlas. However, I believe that local knowledge right now is absolutely mandatory if you want to farm raw currency. So, you will need to focus on swamp and water biomes, just to get increased chance to draw basic currency and run local knowledge almost all the time. Since you don't care about towers anymore, you can run your maps only with swamp and water biomes, so you can just open your atlas and search for any kind of maps with good biomes. So right here, as you can see, right under river hold, you will have a biome which is grass right now. So focusing on water and swamp is going to help you significantly, because you will have a local knowledge bonus which improves currency a lot. So for example, right here I have like a sun temple which is pre-buffed for ritual at least a little, but it gives a right biome with swamp. And some particular maps that you're checking might have no biome at all. So for example, right here I have a sleek, there's no biome, and you will need to run those maps only going through them. Otherwise, just focus on searching for those swamp biomes and water biomes in general. Perfectly, your map should have a cleansed modifier. So right here, for example, I have a swamp with cleanse modifier and like pack of cleaned monsters, which is very good and going to improve your farming significantly. And natural abyss overrun maps could be very good too. So keep that in mind and try to focus on those. So like corruption, cleansed, natural overrun, and biome perfectly should be swamp or water. The rest of the atlas is absolutely obvious. We're just picking all explicit modifiers, bonuses for tablets, unstable energies just to occasionally get that bonus, and rare monsters right here where we can get them. For the breach, since most of the raw currency farming strategies are going to focus on the breach, I recommend to take Rising Pyre, Crumbling Walls and Interdimensional Assault again. If you feel like you can't clear fast enough, you can drop Interdimensional or even invest into Sustained Siege. So now let's talk about the strategy. First off is a very obvious strategy, which is just stacking quantity all over again. Since quantity been very effective before, you can just use triple tablets to stack quantity, and that strategy is pretty straightforward. However, you're going to receive only 43% of quantity with a fully set up atlas. And I heavily recommend not to go for 10% quantity, but go for 9% quantity instead. That way you will use 3 tablets, double with breach and 1 with irradiation. I believe that irradiation currently feels pretty good. The second bonus on irradiation means absolutely nothing, but on the breach, I recommend to go for breaches and map with 8% increased monster density, like up to 10%, or breaches and maps spawn 2 additional rare monsters. Both of those bonuses are pretty good, and I believe that using double tablets to improve your breach is worth it compared to adding just additional mechanics such as ritual or expedition to the map, because we're already focusing on the breach, and getting more effective breaches is definitely worth it, because we already will have a lot of breach monsters in the map, and since we're banking on the quantity, other mechanics such as ritual or expedition will not provide that good rewards compared to just breach, which can spawn a lot of monsters. So quantity strategy right now is acting very similarly to what we had before. And I believe that quantity up to some degree is still the play. So in that setup, you're going to use a pretty basic map together with Omen of Chaotic Rarity, and we'll try to get as much rarity on that map as possible. So here, for example, is a very good example. So you have like rare monsters, about 50%, item rarity higher than 100, and that's pretty much it. However, you will need to focus a lot on looting chaoses, because with the current prices and just running pure quantity maps, I believe that focusing on chaoses and occasional divine drops is a better idea, so don't forget to loot them. Another important moment is like what kind of Delirium we need to apply. So right here, we have a few different options. For the quantity strategy, I believe that running triple paranoia or double paranoia and one fear is the best idea, because you will need to get additional rare monsters into the map, and since we are using it in a similar way as it's been before, I believe that triple paranoia is the way. However, adding one concentrated fear is not a bad idea, because first off, it's adding a pretty decent amount of additional delirium. So at the map, when you're adding one fear, it's giving 22% compared only for 12% from paranoia. And since you already will have a lot of rare monsters, having small chance to get additional modifier on those rare monsters definitely could be worth it. Another interesting thing to mention is that occasionally you will proc remnants of power when playing quantity, and you can get up to 80% of quantity with remnants of power proc together with tablet effects too. The biggest downside for that is the idea that right now, just running triple quantity again will bear less results than before the patch. However, you're still going to drop divines, and I would say that such approach definitely worth the attention. Second strategy is a little different, and it just contains the idea that we can stack rare monsters. And rare monsters is definitely an option right now, because we have a very high roll of rare monsters on the tablets. So you can get tablets for like 38-39% of increased rares, and you can run triple tablets with rares. It will give you whooping 120% of rare monsters, which is, to be honest, a lot. And on top of it, you will be able to combine your concentrated liquid fears to get cool bonuses for your race. So, since you will have a lot of rare monsters in the map, I still recommend to use Omen of Chaotic Rarity right now, because Omen of Chaotic Rarity will provide just rarity for your maps, and I believe it's easier to run rare monsters on the tablets and Chaotic Rarity on the maps at the moment. So, just for Delirium, I believe that for that strategy, you will need to use Concentrated Liquid Fear like 2 times, and the last one should be Paranoia, so you will get some kind of combo there. I believe that 50% to get a modifier is pretty much enough. However, if you're not sure about it, you can drop Paranoia completely and just run triple Liquid Fear, because that way you'll have like 75% chance to get an additional modifier. There is no point to run more Paranoia, because you're already receiving a lot of rare monsters from your tablets. So the biggest downside with that strategy is that since you are missing quantity, there could be an issue with just dropping any currency at all. So you're definitely going to receive currency here and there, but for example, amount of chaoses is significantly better when you're playing quantities approach. That's why I believe that quantity is still providing decent results. But just farming rare monsters could definitely be worth it too, just because big amount of them together with additional modifiers could be pretty nice. It's also a very important moment that you can stack a particular map with also adding additional modifier to your rare based on your DC creation. So keep that in mind when you're DC creating your maps and trying to get anything good out of them. I will cover how we are preparing maps in general for all the strategies a little later in this video. And the last, third strategy is just the strategy that combines the previous two, so a combat strategy in general. For the combat strategy, I believe it's great to just run double quantity tablets, reaching at least some quantity, together with one tablet for rare monsters, which is going to help you a lot with amount of rares. It's also pretty good to get like rares from Breach here. And for Delirium, for the combat strategy, I believe it's a very good idea to run like double paranoia and one fear again. That way you will have significant amount of rare monsters. You can get like 70 and closer to 100, together with a chance to get a modifier on them, and you will still have enough quantity. I believe that variations of the hybrid strategy at the moment is definitely worth the attention, because it can combine some upside from the quantity approach and still get some rare monsters in. Because when you're just focusing on the rare monsters, I believe when you have a very low quantity or no quantity at all, it could lead to less drops overall. And when you're just focusing on the quantity, since quantity tablets got nerfed, you're going to not have enough rares in the maps. And Omen of Chaotic Rarity is still required at the moment. I believe that approach when you're just buffing your map with rarity is going to stay for a long time, because even if it could be a little more expensive, it's still making your map creation much easier as a process. And there have been also an option to use like different things such as Omen of Chaotic monsters. But I believe that Omen of Chaotic monsters currently not worth it, because instead of just rare monsters, they're giving you both rare and magic monsters, which is definitely not what we need. However, for just a rare monster strategy, you can try to run Omens with Chaotic monsters too, to get even more monsters, like rare monsters, in your map. But I believe that just focusing on rarity instead would be beneficial, especially if you don't have a crazy rarity on your character. However, if you're playing with a rarity board or you have like more than 200-300 rarity on your character, you can still try to run Chaotic monsters Omen right here, because it could be beneficial in such setup. So another interesting question is how we are preparing maps. Generally, it's very simple. You're just getting basic Waystone that already kinda ready, clicking Omen of Chaotic Rarity and clicking it with Chaoses. After it, you already have a pretty decent rarity on, or just can run it as it is. However, I still recommend to DC create your Waystones. That way you can have a chance to get like additional prefix and get like Abyss Overrun map, which you will be able to sell right now for people who's currently running prepared maps with towers that they had before. After it, you can just unveil what you received right here, and it could be like practically anything. I recommend to take Increase Monster from Abyss and Abyssal Depths if you care about it a lot. However, it's still going to provide a pretty decent amount of rarity, and you can just apply your Paranoia or Fear or what you would like later. So for example, right here we have like a item rarity together with additional monster pack size. You can also avoid desecrating your maps altogether if you don't want to spend additional time or don't want to try and get some additional bonuses from the desecration or sell maps later. That way, just use a Chaotic Rarity, click it, and you will be able to run them almost immediately. And when you have an option, I recommend to take bonuses such as like Union of Souls for monsters, because it can improve the situation for you in general. Another interesting question is how to buy your tablets. So for tablets, first off, I don't really recommend to go for perfect tablets with like 10% quantity or 40% rare monsters. For example, as you can see, the perfect tablet right here would cost approximately like 1 device, which is not too bad, but it definitely could be an issue because you will need like 3 of them and you will need to make that currency back. However, if you will literally lower it by 1%, so it will be only 9% right now. The difference is not really that big. You're going to get it for half the divine. So you're saving 1.5 divine just by buying a little worse tablet. And another important part is that you need to keep in mind that it's very important to add a count which will give you amount of users remaining 10, because a lot of people are trying to scam others with tablets. So if we will just delete it, as you can see, there are going to be a pretty decent amount of options with less users, like 7 users, and we can find like even 2 or 3. So adding 10 right here could protect you against that. And going for like something very basic like this is definitely worth it, because you're going to pay significantly less for your tablets. And 10% most of the time not worth it if you're not playing it on a prep before maps with multiple towers that you got before the patch. And the last question is pretty much which strategy is the best. At the moment, I consider quantity based on my experience is still the play up to some degree. So either some combination or even pure quantity provided the best results for me. However, significantly more testing is required, because there have been a lot of small changes and it's harder to predict the results, especially in the long run. I would probably stick with quantity myself, but you would need to test most of the strategies at least like a few times for yourself and determine which worked the best exactly for you. And as the last note, just to keep it real, a lot of people asking, is the drop right now worse than it's been before the patch for unprepared maps? And I believe that honestly the answer is yes. We definitely lost some juicing potential compared to what we had before, especially with 4 towers setup. But it's much faster and easier right now to start your maps. So it could be an upside too, especially in the long run, when we will need to consider how many divines you farm per hour, including the preparations of towers. Even if your loot from one particular map will be less, you still could get more than like 15 hours spawn, because you will be able to just farm maps non-stop instead of going and searching for towers. Thank you very much for watching, and let me know in the comments how good farming is going for you, which strategies worked the best, and what you consider the play here. Thank you for watching again, and see you next time. ronarray out.